So my background, I spent 16 years in industry. So I worked for a big multinational agrochemical company for 16 years, and that was straight out of graduate school. So my undergraduate degree is in agricultural education. My master's and my PhD are in entomology. So those are my degrees. And then, like I said, I started in industry right out of graduate school and didn't really know anything about industry. So I've had some career pivots that I just didn't expect. Not they were not part of my plan. I was planning on being an academic person and moving into that kind of role. But then in kind of learning about what industry was like, I was like, I'll try this. And so it worked out for me for 16 years. And I recently moved over to the nonprofit sector. So now I am working on building a new museum complex and research station to work across the country, really, but located in Indiana in the US is where I'm at now. But really, my bulk of my talk, I'm happy to talk about my career. If anybody wants to connect offline after this, I'd love to talk to you about that. But really, I'm going to focus on how do you create your brand, your voice, and your leadership. So it's less about me and more about how do we build you. So these are some of the expectations that I have for today of engage in discussions with each other. I know you guys have some time later on. Learn from one another, share from with each other, be open to feedback because that's how we all get better. Sometimes feedback can feel a little, I don't know, not great, but take it and know that it's constructive, right? Know that people here, you're all trying to help build each other up and lift each other up. That's what community does. And that's what this whole group has been created for. So take advantage of it and then ask questions. Definitely speak up. Don't be shy. This is where you can learn. This is where you can grow. And I really do believe, like Pimbo, much of her talk was really together we can make a difference for one another, for each other, for our communities, and for the entire societies that we are part of and the places that we connect. And I don't know, do I have control of my slides or I think I do. Yes. No, yes. Okay. So I'm going to ask this question. And you can either unmute and just say, or you can add to the chat, what is a personal brand? What are we even talking about today? Any thoughts? You can go ahead and unmute yourself and say.
Good day, everyone. My name is Nopalisa Zane from Eswatini. I think a personal brand is actually something that or characteristic that actually defines you as a person, what your values, your principle, which actually define who you are in the entire or rather the outside world. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic definition. And I would not disagree with any of it. It's really who you are and what you want to be known for. So I have a little exercise that I'm going to challenge you to do as homework. So I think I'm not sure. I want you to write two things that you want other people to know you for. Like, what are those top two things that are part of you that will never change regardless of what career you have or who you are? What are those things that you want to be known for? And maybe it is your career that you want to be known for. Maybe you want to be known as the expert in something. That can be part of your brand. It can also be something that's more of a value statement. So think about that. Take a couple minutes, write down those two. And then the homework portion of this is going to be that I want you to find someone that you've talked to not like a mom or a dad, not a family member that knows you super well, but somebody that you've met and talked to, maybe not your best friend, um, and ask them to describe you and see if those things that you wrote down and the things that the person says about you are the same. Sometimes you'll find that they are. Other times you'll find that they're not. They're actually seeing something else about your personality and about how you come across that you don't even know. And maybe sometimes that's exactly, you just hadn't internalized it and that's who you want to be. And sometimes it's, oh, that's not really what I mean to present to my network. And so how do you start to modify that brand? Because really your brand is more about what other people think of you than what you think of yourself. There's kind of two. There's your own personal brand that you hold internally, but then there's the brand that other people put on you, whether it's fair or not, they're seeing something in you and they're branding you in a certain way. And so networking is a big, big part of how you build your personal brand. So the interactions that you have with people, the conversations that you have, the how you introduce yourself, all of that is building your brand. And whether it's the brand you want or the brand that someone is giving you, you can control some of that. And so I'm going to talk about some techniques, especially through LinkedIn. I'm going to focus on LinkedIn because it's a platform that can really is a global platform that we can connect with people all over. And we are more in control of it, and it's a professional setting. So that's where I'm going to focus most of the time of this talk. So I will also say that networking is very, very important from a standpoint of, sorry, I'm trying to get my slides to go again. There we go. Of use every opportunity to meet yourself. I actually can say that every job that I've had, except for one, has been because of a network, not because I applied online to a job. It's because somebody knew me, knew what I was good at, knew what I wanted to do, and they helped me get there. And sometimes even just people that I didn't know that helped me get there. And so it was through a network, just this quick conversation. So prepare an elevator speech. What are the two sentences? If somebody asks you, tell me a little bit about yourself, what is it? Like, hit it strong and hard and be very concise. Don't talk a lot. Say, these are the things. So that's why practicing and preparing an elevator speech is really useful so that you have that ready no matter who you meet, where you meet them. And you never know. You may be at a social event and you're talking to someone and they ask you that and you tell them, and they may know somebody that has a job later that's open, and that may come around and help you. So all of that is super important. Ask for contact information, business cards, LinkedIn profiles, and then use Pimbo's last slides on how to construct an email to follow up with a nice to meet you email, or in the little connection box on LinkedIn, say something, right? And connect with people in that way professionally. And then definitely let them get to know you, right? In order to get a good recommendation letter, people have to know what your strengths are, know what you're wanting to do, know where you would be good at that role that you're applying for so that they can speak to you specifically. And it's not so generic that it could be a letter for anybody, right? You want it very specific to you. So the one example I'll share here is my first job in industry, straight out of graduate school into industry, was because I met someone at a conference. I walked up to her and I said, I have a few questions. I was too nervous in the big room to raise my hand in the big symposia. So I went up to them afterwards and I said, can I ask you a few questions? We sat down for 5-minute conversation. I asked my questions, she answered my questions. And then she said, when are you graduating? And I said, actually, I'm graduating in May. Here's my CV. And I handed it to her across the table. Didn't really think anything of it because I hadn't really had industry in my mind at all. It's something I wanted to do. Next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call and saying, hey, we would like to fly you to Indianapolis, Indiana. I was in New York at the time, and interview you for a job. And that's where I ended up first the next 16 years. So you really never know. That was a random connection and question. And then that just followed into my half of my career, more than half of my career at this point. And so network, network, network. I cannot stress that enough. So how do you expand your brand? So you may have in your mind, and you've got your elevator speech done, and you're doing this networking, and that's a great start, and that's really where you want to do it. But expanding it, how do you tell people who you are and who you want to be in a way? And this is really why I think LinkedIn is a good place to do that. It's free. It's a professional profile that you have control over. You can tell your story in whatever way you want. It's your voice, it's you saying it. And so that builds your professional brand. It builds your credibility of you're an expert in this because these are the topics that you talk about all the time. You can highlight your achievements there. It's kind of your one-stop shop to brag about yourself. And it may feel weird to brag about yourself, but we all have to do it to be recognized and so that people can know us. You know, it's not all about the achievements. It's also about the what stories do you choose to tell on there? What people are you interacting with? What kinds of groups are you a part of? What are you commenting on and how are you commenting, right? Everybody's looking at those and it's a way to gain exposure. So especially for those of you that are thinking, you know, hey, I'm going to be graduating soon and looking for jobs. This is a way to get your name and your exposure and your expertise out there in the world in a way that people can find you. It also allows you to expand your network. So maybe, you know, in my case, I'm at a point in my career where collaborators are really important to me and looking for partners, you know, and I can use my network on LinkedIn to do some of that kind of work. As a younger, newer employee, It's looking for mentors who can help me with this subject that I don't know as much about and I need to learn. Or, I want to expand in this way my skill set. You can expand your network in that way and use LinkedIn there too. And then you can learn about companies, recruiters, hiring managers for those actual jobs, right? They actually post those jobs on LinkedIn. So you can also use that to your advantage. So these are the very, very basic things. If you haven't started on LinkedIn, that's okay. Start today. That's my challenge to you. If you have, make sure that you have these things. And I'm going to build as we go. So maybe you already have these things, but there'll be some later on that you can improve. So, choose a professional profile photo. Don't do a selfie. Have somebody take the picture of you, in a nice, clean background, dress nicely, and put that professional profile or whatever makes sense for the career you want. If you want a career in medicine, maybe it's in your lab coat, right? And or in a research lab. Maybe it's in a lab coat, right? That's okay. Make sure that it is professional though. It's not a selfie. It's not something at a party that you went to, right? None of those kinds of photos. Have a background image so that that weird shaped image at the top also gives you more space to brand yourself. What is that picture? That picture should tell us something about you. How does it relate to what you want to do? And then customize your URL because the default one is like LinkedIn/IN/542AC3. And that doesn't mean anything. So you want to change that to your name. And you can go, I'll show you the links of how to get there to change that so that it's your name in the actual LinkedIn profile. So here's some common mistakes that they're missing a lot of that stuff, that the basics that I just talked about. The other thing is the specific job titles are listed there, not what you aspire to be. So I use that space as another way to not just say I am a entomologist. I use it to say, I am really interested in building STEM communities and encouraging youth to explore science industries and science careers. So those are the kinds of things that you can do is be more specific. And again, that's a way to brand yourself and to tell more about you. Using that default URL instead of changing it to your name. And then profiles that actually describes the job that you have, not what you want. And the language is inappropriate for a professional environment. Again, this is where you should speak not like you would on other social media platforms. This one's a professional platform, so use it in that way. So here's an example of a bad one, right? This is a selfie. She looks like she's been at the beach. Probably not a great thing unless you're going to be a lifeguard. Maybe this is a great picture if you're going to be a lifeguard. But that's not usually a career that people are like out to get. And so probably changing that picture. There's no border picture there. And the job is Albertsons, which is a grocery store. So unless she wants to be a manager there or something, maybe that is relevant. But that's probably not the job that she's probably looking for. That's the job she has now. And so this is a better profile, right? Is okay, there's a more of a headshot profile. There's a picture of a lab there. Now oh, she's a chemist and interested in lab, and she's a student probably because she's at ISU, or maybe she's an assistant professor. Now I'm going to dig in and see, what is her actual role. So that's a way to improve it right away. Just with that, data will say that with a pictures and such like this, you get 7 times more hits than you would without that information. These are just some other examples of people that, their profiles look different, but I'd say they all have something that, again, if you dig into what I just said, that are descriptive about who they are and what their brand is, and whether it's a very professional blended brand or it's more of like this top right one is kind of the odd one a little bit, is they're just your friendly neighborhood recruiter. So they want to feel very personable. Part of their brand is feeling very homey, right? And so they've got a picture of the cat there. I would say if you're looking for a professional job that's in an industry, that's probably not the profile you want. But if you're going to be a career coach and you really want to connect with people on a level of personal interests, then maybe that is the right place for you. So consider what those things are very carefully and use them to your advantage. Oh, and I have a little website down here. This pexels.com is where you can actually find free sized photos that'll fit in that border, because I know those are hard to find. So pexels.com, you can go through there and find some pictures that might fit for you, depending on what your field is. You can type in some search words and find some things there. Very helpful to get started, especially if you haven't taken any of your own photos. So this is just an example of how you get to that customized URL piece. So you go to your profile, you click on view profile, and then you click on edit your public profile and URL. And that's where you can click on the edit your URL and then you delete all that numbers and jargon and you type in your name there. So that's where you do that. Um, Here's an activity again for you to do at home. So take a screenshot of this or do whatever you need to do. And you have the slides, so these will be available. Is work on those profile basics. So make sure that you have all these kind of essentials down before you start the next step. Because if you don't have these, nobody will really look further on your profile. Those are what grab attention and get people to sort of dig into you a little bit more. So if you have all of that, fantastic. You're way ahead. You're doing a great job. Congratulations. What's next? Next is the headline and the profile summaries. So this is again places that you can customize for you and tell your story. So, your tagline is one of those things right under your name. What is your tagline going to be? What do you want to highlight? What do you want to be when you grow up? And how do you want to describe that? So if it's a global leader in X, say that, right? If it is a, you know, expert in Y, say that. And then when you think about, well, what should it say? I like to think about what do you do, who do you serve, and how do you do it as kind of the think about those things and describe those within that headline. There's a place for a summary. And so you can write a summary. Don't make this 3 pages that anybody has to read through. Again, this should be a paragraph, maybe two if you have to, of, your professional life. Where are you? What have you done? Where do you want to go? It's an opportunity to highlight what you've already done and some of the accomplishments that you've had, the skills that you've developed, but then also where you want to go with that and what your goals are. Um, some of the elements of a good summary include who you are, what drives you, your accomplishments. I do think it's really important all throughout this is to be authentic for sure to you. You don't want to create a profile that doesn't feel like you, because then when I meet you, I will know right away that that was kind of a made up profile online that you are trying to portray, but you really haven't invested in it, let's say. And then be personal. And I will caution there of like, you have to decide how much personal information you want to put out there. It is online. You never can get it back, right? So consider that. I do find that sharing more personal stories and personal things that have happened do get a lot more attraction and attention. So when I've written some posts, the ones that have like completely floored me about the number of interactions and the number of comments that I've received on them. There are two. One was me talking about feedback and how the different things that I have been called in my career and whether they were good or bad, and sometimes they were bad, and how that I took it and internalized it either for better or worse. How I managed to like use this information, but this information I felt like I had to just let go of. And it was not said in a constructive way. And sometimes you just have to let go of some of that feedback. So those are some, and then adding pictures. Photos really do help. If you add a photo to a post, you're going to get more interaction with that than if you don't. I had one post that I didn't have a picture that really went with the subject, so I just threw a picture of like a profile headshot of me. And I got somebody that came to my profile and said, I actually clicked on your thing because I thought you were a pro golfer because I had a baseball cap on. And they were interested in that. And then they read my like post and they were like, oh, I see you do outreach education. And I do too. And I happen to be in this area. And we actually met in person of that just because of that photo. Would have never found me any other way. So random things, add a photo, add videos. You guys are all probably better at that than I am. Because you're younger than I am. I find the younger generation is much better at that. So how do you network on LinkedIn? So I'm going to go through these pretty quick because some of it's a little repetitive. So build your network, build your brand, right? Those two things go hand in hand. Don't be shy, reach out, ask for connections. If you want something specific from someone, don't be afraid to ask like, hey, can I have 30 minutes to learn about your career? Because I'm interested in maybe wanting to be that when I, get out of my degree program. Um, if you're looking for a mentor, right? Email somebody and say, hey, I looked on this. I think, you have some really good information. I want to learn more. And then look for commonalities and then maintain those relationships, whatever that means to you. Sometimes that's just through posting on a regular basis. Sometimes that is sending just a quick email at the end of the year saying, hey, thanks for being part of my network. You all mean so much to me. And here's what I've been up to. Like there are ways to just connect with people that way. Um, oh, And this is when you connect on LinkedIn, I always recommend connect with a note. Don't just click the connect button, add a note so that they know why you are wanting to connect with them. And I'm going to give you some examples of those because sometimes it's hard to figure out. So write them quickly because there's only so many characters that are allowed in that. You can't write a story, right? You have to get to the point quickly and be polite. Like Pembo's email, it's not any different than that. It's the same tools. So here's some that I have actually received. So these are real life examples from people that have sent it to me. So this one is a mutual connection. So they say, "Hi, I'm a fifth year PhD student getting ready to graduate. I'm interested in science outreach, and I got your information from so and so who works at this company." And so I already know that we have a connection from to a person and to a place. And so that helped me say, "Oh, great, what happy to connect," right? Here's one that's a common interest that just says, "Hi, I came across your profile tonight and it looks like you're doing a lot of interesting things. Let me know that there's everything I can help with on the entomology or education outreach front." Perfect, right? There's not really an ask of me here of like, I want to follow up with you. But again, because of the word count here, you can't always get to that. Um, and then finally, the last one is I met you or heard you speak at an event. I didn't have a chance to say hi at the event, but wanted to introduce myself since we're both working in STEM and equity space and would love to chat over a virtual cup of coffee. Now, that one actually did ask for something, right? So we had a quick meeting just to meet and greet, really, online. So those are some really nice ways to connect with someone and to tell them why you're actually messaged. So here's another homework assignment for you all and a challenge is to connect with someone. So if you haven't built your profile already and using LinkedIn to connect with people, connect with someone at your university, at an employer that you either work for or worked for or are wanting to work for, um, or someone that's on this call today, right? Connect with the different participants here. And then make two connections accompanied with an introduction message. So make sure that you use those little messages. And then there are also interest groups. This I would say is lower priority. To me, it's those individual connections that mean more. But sometimes groups that you are interested in that are talking about subjects you're interested in are a great learning tool and a great way to find that network. If you don't know who those people are, go to that network and see who's engaging and who's asking questions and who is inspiring you. Those are the people you want to connect with. So I've talked a lot about this. You'll have these slides. So just continuing to boost your engagement by using the tool and all the different things it has. I'm going to skip ahead a couple of thoughts. I'm almost at the end. This one's really important. So use the STAR method. So what that is just saying, what is the situation? What is the task? What is the action and the result? Usually when people are working on CVs, resumes, or cover letters, they cover the top three, the situation, the task, and the action. They forget the result. So these are some examples that you can read of, and two of them are from my own career. So I founded 3 STEM programs impacting my community. That's how I used to say it. Now I say I founded 3 STEM programs reaching over 750,000 people globally in the first 5 years. That's way more impactful, right? So add numbers, add results in there for what you've done. That will set you apart. And then I will thank these people because they help me with slides. This is part of my personal brand. Again, your pictures matter and tell 1,000 words. And then there is my contact information if you want to follow up, and I will answer any questions you might have. Thank you again.